I think that's the best way to handle that. Again, trying to stay on a schedule. Beautiful. All right, let's just take a moment to come in. I want to welcome you to this webinar. This is um, the four agreements through the lenses of the nervous system. And I have to say that of the different webinars that or different workshops that I've created over um, this decade, this may be my favorite. So I'm really excited to have you here. I'm Christy, if you don't know who I am. And for over the past decade, I've been guiding people through deep transformation, mainly women, but a few men have crossed my journey as well. I've been helping them to reconnect or even connect for the first time with their bodies, their nervous systems, and their inner wisdom. Now, my journey started long before this past decade where I've been bringing people in and guiding them. I've been studying the healing arts since, I guess, the early 1990s. I was transitioning out of childhood into adulthood, and initially I sought this avenue out because I was looking for healing. I was struggling. I was struggling from surviving childhood, sexual abuse, um, neglect, anorexia. I had several health issues, major health issues to come up as a child. And try this again. Um, and then I had struggles in my early adulthood um, with, again, eating disorders and um, struggles with alcohol, mainly as a way of numbing or disassociating. Um, and so I know what it feels like to feel stuck and unsafe, disconnected from your body. But I also know what it feels like to reclaim your power, to feel grounded, and to experience a real embodiment in healing. So that's why I've been working on all these different webinars and courses because I'm here to show you that there is healing after trauma. And this has been designed to just meet you right where you are. Um, I'm here to guide you in understanding your body and your nervous system and to teach you some restoring safety practices. And so this one is the four agreements. Um, and so I'm really excited to have you on this journey. Um, you're going to learn a little bit about how to regulate the nervous system and how to cultivate a life where you feel maybe more present, embodied, and empowered. Um, yeah. So, welcome. And what we are going to do here as we're getting started is creating this safe container. So, whether if you are watching right now or you're watching the recording a little bit later on, so watching live or the recording later, um, this is a safe space. And what we want to come here to share, we want to share from our own experiences and not someone else's experiences if we feel um, comfortable and safe in a share. And that we would not take any stories that we hear in this circle in this container and take them out into the world. So kind of like what happens here stays here with the vagus nerve instead of Vegas. Um, so we are going into again exploring the four agreements through the lenses of the nervous system. And the purpose of this space with the four agreements are not to be taught as rules to follow, um, or an ideal to perfect. So we want to take, that ideal out. This is instead where I'm inviting you to look at this as an exploration, as living practices that support the nervous system regulation, self compassion, and intentional choices. And choices is so important when it comes to the nervous system because when the nervous system feels like there's no choice, that's when it begins shutting down or activating. And so, um, teaching your body and your nervous system that there's choice is just really important. So, there's a chat box down in the bottom. And so I'm going to invite you in to help complete this circle here that we're creating. If you feel safe, I would love for you to just put your name um, and maybe where you're joining from. And maybe there's a discussion box. I'm not sure if you're seeing chat or discussion, depending on if this is a recording or live. And then my other question here is, have you read the four agreements? So do you know what the four agreements are? And it does not matter if that answer is yes or no, because we're going to go through each one together. Beautiful. Thank you. Welcome. So you can put this information in the group chat, or you're also able to send it just directly to me. So thank you if you send it to me. Hello again. Hello, Leah. Beautiful. So the four agreements is one of my favorite books that I have studied on in this past decade. It completely changed my life. It completely changed how I communicate with myself and the world. Um, and so, yeah, if you've read the four agreements, how did that settle for you? Was it a captivating experience? So for me, to be completely honest, the very first time I read the book, nothing settled with me. I read it. I remember reading it, but I didn't retain anything. And so then when I read it the second time, it was almost as if I had never read it. But I had made notes in the book, so I knew that I had. And then I read it another time and another time, and so now it has become a book that I read privately and go through privately on my own once a year, and usually with a group maybe once or twice a year. I also work with the four agreements in my warrior goddess training work as well, if you're familiar with that program and that book. So I'm just going to jump right on into the agreements. Okay, we have some people who've read it and some people who have not. Beautiful. So I'm just going to jump in. So the Four Agreements is a beautiful foundation work. Um, so the Four Agreements are be impeccable with your word. Um, I get the second and the third mix up or reverse sometimes. Okay, the second one, don't take things personally. The third one is don't make assumptions. And the fourth one is to always do your best. And we're going to dive into each one of those. And like just hearing them, it sounds simple and hard both at the same time, right? Like to be impeccable with my word means, to be truthful, to not gossip, to mean what I say, and notice the energy behind what I'm saying and making sure that those match up. So it's like all of these different things like that. So, like when I really began working with being impeccable with my word, one of the practices that I looked at was my use of essential oils. And when I started using essential oils, I didn't understand the powerfulness of them. So, like the concentration, like how many thousands of lavender buds that it takes to make the one little bottle of oil. And so, when I worked with lavender oil, for example, well, I would just splatter it, right? I'm using this oil, I'm just using the oil. Um, And so then, as I continued my studies and I learned how much goes into making these little bitty bottles, and that one drop is so powerful, I began working with essential oils rather than using essential oils. So it's little things like that. The other beautiful one is rephrasing, like when my daughter calls and needs me to help last minute with the grandkids. I don't have to go and pick them up from the bus. I get to go pick them up from the school bus. And that's a different energy. I have to almost feel like it's an obligation, or even being forced. And I get to is, an excitement, like a pleasure, a blessing that is bestowed upon me. And so that's just a little of the difference in them being impeccable with your word. And then now I'm going to tie that we're going to explore that with our nervous system and self talk. And so if we have shame and criticism and inner pressure, that inner dialogue, we notice what that inner dialogue um, is connected to our our nervous system. So, my phone, back when smartphones were really coming out and there were games, began. You could download games, and I had the Jewel or Candy Crush or something, right? You match up three little jewels, and you would have like five lives. And if you missed the life, and you would have to wait an hour for them to get filled back up and all that. Well, if I would miss, I would talk down to myself. Like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid. How did you miss that? And I began noticing that after I started doing this work. And so I deleted the games because I didn't like how I treated myself in this very competitive sense. Um, and I didn't like what it was doing to my nervous system. I would stop breathing. I was holding my breath. And this is just something so small as a game on the phone. And so we think of some of the other self talks that we may experience. Um, I have a history in anorexia of body dysmorphia. And so I have not been the kindest to myself regarding my body, the size, the weight, the scars, um, stretch marks, surgical scars. And now that I'm aging, it looks even more different. Yeah, you know how that feels. A lot of agreements there. Yeah. Gosh, so right. So that self-talk that we're giving ourselves in that time is activating the nervous system, and it's causing the nervous system to go into fight, flight, um, freeze, fawn, flop, one of the different activated nervous states. I'm going to talk more about that on Monday in the webinar on Monday. If you um, don't have the link for that, just send me a message and I'll make sure you have that link. Um, but there are five states that the nervous system goes into and it's activated. And we activate it with our self-talk. So what we want to maybe try to practice, what I'm going to invite is um, gentle, truthful language. And that can begin to bring in support and regulation and self-trust. So the way that I began to work with my self-talk against my body, for example, was um, I began practicing just unconditional self-love. So I would give myself short little meditations. So like maybe let's set a timer, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, and I would just sit and maybe hold my belly because that's one of my areas that I um, did not care for in the past and um, was disassociated from. And I would just hold my belly and I would just send love to it and just say, I love you. Thank you for carrying my two babies and bringing them to life. Um, Thank you for processing my foods so that I'm getting nourished, filling up my gas tank so I've got energy to do things. And and then I would do things like I would practice um, just saying like, I am beautiful. I am beautiful. And even if I didn't believe it when I started saying it, eventually that feeling sense kind of settled into my body. But I had a friend who told me once that that did not help her. That did not feel good for her because she didn't believe it so much that it felt like she was lying to herself by saying, I am beautiful and I love you. And so, what we decided for her to practice was, what if I am beautiful? What if I am enough just as I am and nothing needs to change? So, I invite you to practice that just for this moment. Maybe say either I am enough or what if I am enough to yourself. Yes, and feel how that feels. That feels so much better than, girl, look at all of them stretch marks you got. I mean, and look at, so something I'm in right now is I'm having an eye issue. So I don't know if this eye will not open all the way or if this eye is staying open too much. I don't know, but there's a difference. In my old ways, I would have been too self conscious to have come before you. But as I've been doing this work, I can look at this imperfection that's happening, this event that's happening, and I can say, it's okay. I love you just as you are right now. Nothing has to change. So when I'm feeling my best or not so, this is a way that I work with being impeccable with my word. I have a cough happening, a tickle in my throat. Yes, you can work with your son with this as well. Absolutely. I have a handful of grandchildren, and I work with this with them. And um, I believe that you can't teach this too soon in a life. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, again, like we want to speak to ourselves and to others from a place of clarity rather than protection or performance. And so, to get to clarity, sometimes that means you have to sit with it for a little bit before responding. So, this agreement comes easier when you are practicing it with yourself for you to bring it out and practice it with the world as well. And remember that this is about welcoming safety and not perfection. So we don't want to beat ourselves up if we catch ourselves saying something negative or mean about ourselves or someone else. So, like, there was one day, and this was maybe 6 years ago or so. I was getting myself ready and I looked in the mirror and I don't know, I just saw some wrinkles. I saw maybe tiredness. And I said, girl, eyeliner won't even help you today. And as I stepped away, I felt yucky. I think I'm getting hot. I'm gonna take my sweater off. Okay. So as I realized how I felt right after saying those words to myself out loud to a mirror, um, I came back and I was like, girl, come on. It was not nice. You have just sold your house. You're packing your whole life up and you've got no clue where you're going next. Things are happening right now. you are doing your best. Oh yeah, I'm cooling down already. How are some ways that you feel like you can work with being impeccable with your word in your life to maybe begin to regulate the nervous system? Maybe starting small. Yeah. An affirmation is beautiful. Little victories, baby steps. Hmm. Yeah. Little affirmations and celebrating them. Celebrating when you maybe hear yourself respond differently than you would have before, or maybe catching yourself saying something negative and stopping it in the moment. Yeah. So the next is don't take anything personally. Now, again, it sounds very simple and yet so extremely hard at the same time. That this agreement helps us to understand reactivity, how past experiences shape and present present reactions. Yeah, this one's a challenge. It's huge. It's so huge. Um, Taking things personally can be a survival response, which you will learn in Monday's webinar. A survival response is an automatic response. We've got no control over it. It just happens. So, in the book, The Four Agreements, the author, Don Miguel Ruiz, says taking things personally is the biggest form of selfishness, egoism that there is. And this is hard to hear because I don't think that I am very egotistical nor a very selfish person. That this is the reason behind what he says. So he says taking things personally, by taking something personal, you are making it about you. So you're making everything about you by taking things personally. So he gives the example, and it's very easy to see in this very harsh example. If someone takes a gun and shoots you in the head, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. We know this from mass shootings. They happen because there's something going on in the shooter's mindset, not in the mindset, has nothing to do with the victims. And so, but if we can try to take that huge analogy and take it into real life, everyday situations. So, when the cashier at the grocery store is a little snappy with you ringing you up or cashing you out, it really has nothing to do with you. This cashier doesn't even know you, most likely. It most likely has something to do with what's going on in their world. And perhaps there's something that went on with the customer before you or their home life or you know trouble at work. And then that flourishes out of them off into who they're interacting with. How does that one resonate? How does that one feel in the body? Don't take things personally. Big, right? Yeah. Yeah, this one's a huge one. And like, even when someone is directing it towards you, so someone's actions is actually coming to you, um, again, it's a reflection of what's going on in their world, in their mind, in their perception, and maybe nothing to do with you. It's big. Yeah. This one is hard. This one is hard. Um, but to understand this practice, it helps support emotional regulation. It also helps to create boundaries and resilience, allowing us to stay grounded even when we're challenged. Yes, so even when they're attacking you directly. So I got a little example of this, and this is a hard example. So a few years ago now, my son was sending me a couple of text messages that was heavy and hard to read, that he did not want to have anything to do with me, and he did not want his children to be around me. He did not feel like that I was um, a good mom or a good grandmother, and that I was fake. And yeah, and so like I was in it. Oh, I was reactive, and I was like, oh, responding, no, Bill said, I don't understand where this is coming from, and I love you, I cherish you. And he's like, nah, I'm out. And he's left my life. He's been gone now for a few years. He cut out my entire family, me, my daughter, my father, my brother. So he's made some very big decisions, and we honor that. And in that moment, I brought this book back out, The Four Agreements, and I listened to it because I was not in any state to read it. I was just boohooing. So I listened to it on Audibles, and I texted with my daughter, and I told her what he had said. And she called me. She said, none of this is true. You are not a fake mom or a fake grandma. It's not, you, you know, this is not true. And I don't want you to own it. I don't want you to own it, mom. And so, so what she was telling me in her words is don't take it personally. There's something going on with him. He began to cut his friends out of his life, and then he began to cut other family members out of his life. If it were only to do with me, he might have only cut me out of his life. If I had truly done something to have caused this reaction in him. And so I had the beautiful opportunity to practice not taking this personally. And it was hard. And it didn't mean that the situation wasn't hard, because the situation was still hard. I still miss my son. I have 5 grandchildren I don't get to see. two I've never met. I carry that weight every day. And if I took that personally, if I owned his words to me, then I would be missing out on the life that I enjoy so greatly with my other grandchildren and with my daughter and with life in itself. Because I would be sitting here in some sort of activated nervous system state, in maybe isolation. Isolation is my favorite. I'm an isolator. And so when I'm activated, that's where I just shut down. And so I did go internally when this happened, but I went internally and I did this work. I grabbed that book and I read, I listened to that book several days in a row. And it's only like maybe, I want to say maybe 5 to 6 hour books. So I mean I can listen to that in one setting. But I listened to that a lot during that time because I was activated. You know, my nervous system, I was crushed and crumbling. And so since that took place, there's been two more babies born, and I get to, I still have to sit with, he doesn't want me, and that's his choice. I have to honor that. And I know that I showed up as their mother, doing the absolutely best that I could do with what I knew at the time that we were in. And I show up today as their mother and the grandmother of their children in my very best, which looks completely different. My best today versus my best in my 20s, completely different. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for listening. Yeah. So it is an example of something very hard, and it would be very easy to own, very easy to take personal, very easy to say, I'm a bad, I was a bad mom, because I did make mistakes. We all do. So where does that feel for you with that example? Like, how does that sit? It's still hard. It's still hard, but that's why it's also called work and practice. Yeah. When we can see other people in practice, you can see that it's doable. And again, just like being impeccable with our word, it's the baby steps and honor the little victories. I've been carrying those weights too long. Yes, yes. They're heavy on our chest like an elephant. Yeah. Releasing that out. Yeah. We're going to move into don't make assumptions. So this often shows up when the nervous system is dysregulated and we're seeking certainty or safety. Also, John Miguel talks about it like when we're afraid to ask for clarity or we're afraid to ask questions, Then we make assumptions. And we believe the assumptions that we make up because our mind needs that story. It needed an answer, and for some reason we were afraid to ask. So it created the assumption, it created the answer, and we believed it. We agreed with it. We're going to go with it. We'll even find situations that will pop up that will help us tune in and like, oh yeah, like it helps like see um one of the examples in Warrior Goddess, she talks about like if you are in a family where the parents love the green haired children better than the blue haired children. And so then the green haired children at dinner sees mom serving the blue haired children first. And they're like, see, mom loves the blue haired children more than me. So we find things that make us say, yeah, our assumption is real. We are right. Often when we're making an assumption, our body is in threat or protection, like evidence in our story. Yeah. Yeah. So, like when we create that story, then our mind then begins to look for those little evidences that means it's true. One of the ways of working with not making assumptions is to welcome the pause. And the pause is uncomfortable for most people when we begin working with it. Because, especially in today's fast paced society, the go, go, go world, I call it the microwave society. If you can cook a meal in like 30 seconds, like everything needs to be extremely fast when, things really shouldn't be that quick. Like, let's slow down, right? Bring in the pause, the in between phase, because usually when we're in that in between, when we're not the doing, is when we begin to feel things and we don't want to feel it. So we get busy, we disassociate, we just get busy so that we don't feel, we numb out. When we pause, you begin to listen to your inner wisdom, and then you're able to come back with a response versus a reaction. And so, what I like to do for myself is I just call myself out when I make an assumption. I say, oh, look at you making an assumption. Or I'll even say, now I'm making an assumption here, but is this what you meant? Because that's a way for me to find clarity. So, like, maybe replacing assumptions with curiosity and choice. So, like, when I'm with my grandchildren, my grandboys, I have three grandsons with my daughter, and I eat very healthy. We don't go to fast foods, and they know this. And so I don't ask them like, where do you want to eat? I ask them, what would you like to eat? And I give them a few options so they have some choices. Would you like chicken, a hamburger, some macaroni or spaghetti? So I'm giving them these options. And then I'm going to, so they get the choice. So I'm trying to teach them this safety in their raisings. Um, and then I will choose where I will take them or go to the store to cook for them. And so the oldest, he's like, well, I would like to have McDonald's something. I'm like, I didn't ask you where you would like to go, asking you what you would like to eat. And then that's what I will get for you because we both know that Mimi don't go to fast food, and they just laugh. And so, um, replacing assumptions with curiosity and choice. So this agreement supports presence, clarity, and relational safety. Can you think of some ways that you may make assumptions in your world and how you might be able to invite some curiosity? I'm in a place of assuming it personally. Yes, right? Absolutely. That's the way it works. We make the assumption and then we take it personal. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm ready to change that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Working with the four agreements has been a beautiful practice for me in welcoming these changes, and it's created a brand new life um, for me because, again, the way that I interact with myself and the world has just changed so dramatically that I have a hard time recognizing like who I once was. Yeah, thank you. So the last agreement, the fourth agreement, so I won't say the last because there's a fifth agreement, but that's a whole other book. So we're just sticking with the four agreements. The fourth agreement is to always do your best. Always do your best. And again, this may sound very easy and yet it's very hard at the same time. So I want to explore this as a state um, of doing your best in state dependent versus performance basis. So, what that means is your best is different all the time, day to day, moment to moment, week to week, month to month, season to season, year to year. Things change as we change and age. Our best changes and ages. Some ways, in some areas, we get better, and in some areas, we may get slower. And so, learning how to honor doing our best in the moment, in the state that we're in, rather than a performance base or like a should base. So, this looks like releasing shame around productivity and consistency. An example that I've got, another beautiful example, a hard example around doing my best. Back in 2022, I had a little metaphysical shop and in part of my studio, and I had a vendor coming in one morning to set up her space. And it was a closed day. I was just letting her in. It's like I call it like a admin day where I get some business work done, but I'm not working with clients. So with, I was in the studio, a vendor's working on her thing, phone rings. So I decide I'm going to answer it. because I'm in a good place. I mean, I wouldn't typically take a phone call on this admin day, but I'm, I'm in a space that I can do that. The person that called was not in a good space. They had lost their gift certificate quite some time ago, and they felt like I should honor it, even though there was no way for me to validate that this person had a gift certificate. I gave them choices and options of being able to provide me with information that would allow me to search for that certificate, but they didn't want that. They wanted me to just simply take their word and honor their certificate. I'm a small business and I can't afford that. And Walmart would not do that. I can't do that either. And so, I'm holding space for this person who's obviously not in a good state. And I'm allowing them to vent and I'm just listening. And I had my phone laying down on the deck table and I was just listening to what they had to say. And a text message came through from my brother. And it simply said, Mom has a brain bleed. She's being transferred to Knoxville for brain surgery. My best changed in a moment, a blink of an eye, a moment of a text message. My whole day changed. My world changed. So I no longer hold the space and capacity to listen to this person on the telephone who at this moment was saying the words, this gift certificate was given to me by a friend when I lost my father. I don't know where things are anymore. And I hope you find yourself in this position one day. I hung up on that person. I ended the call. It was not my place to continue to take any more wrath from them for losing their gift certificate. I looked over to my vendor and I said, hey, things changed. I am going to have to run back, shut everything down. I've got about 15 minutes and then I need to leave. Can you be done in this 15 minutes? They said yes, and so we closed on up and I went on to take care of what began the transition of my mother's passing. And so, again, it's a beautiful, hard example of how your best can change in the blink of an eye, in a moment. And so, we want to honor effort without self judgment. There's another one that's not quite as hard. I was leaving my apartment, which is next door or above my studio space. And so I was leaving my apartment, and one of my staff members, team members, was coming out and closing out the studio, and they saw me. Um, I had a piece of pizza hanging out of my mouth, and I just said, "I don't eat fast food," right? And they laughed at me, and they were like, "What are you doing with that?" And I said, "You know what? I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best in this moment. I don't have time to cook dinner tonight. I have to run to my daughter's house because she is on home care therapy right now, where the nurse is coming to do an IV, and I gotta go take care of the boys. So this is the best that I got. I ordered pizza, and they got pizza for dinner, and I ate mine on the way. So it's not judging, self compassion. Good for you for holding your boundaries. That's this work. This work of welcoming in the four agreements is helping you honor yourself. That's what helps you create these boundaries and take care of yourself. Accepting that it's different every day really takes the pressure, the performance pressure off. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, it is, there's another author, Brene Brown, in one of her teachings said something that um, her and her husband do, and I find it fascinating. I just love it. That at the end of the day, when they come together, they quantify how much capacity they have left to give to each other to complete the rest of the day. So that means like household chores and dinner that needs to be done, conversation, like what do I have left to give? And so they come in and they're like, I got 30. And the other one's going to say, I got your other 70. Or I got 30. I got 32. We're ordering pizza tonight and going to our offices, and just vegging out. So it's getting honest with yourself about where you are and how you're feeling and what you're able to give. I was surprised about how my stomach calmed when I thought that. Yes. Oh, how I feel like I wear so many different hats every day. Absolutely. And some hats we choose, some hats are given to us by the culture that we live in, or by the family unit that we're within, or our careers, or like all of these different things. Like when I bought the building in downtown Athens, I did not realize that came with a hat. That came with a hat of being a downtown property owner. And then there was another hat to be a downtown business owner. I just wanted to come in here and run my business. And then I had all these other things showing up that I was supposed to be a part of because this is what was expected of me, because where I fail. Living in alignment becomes something that you feel like you felt that, not something that you force. This is not about mastering the agreements. It's about embodying them in a way that feels safe, grounded, and human. So we had somebody to join in kind of here at the end. We're just kind of closing up here. I want to mention a couple of things, and I'll send you some emails. I have another webinar at 6:30 talking about shame. You should have had that link in your email as well if you want to join me there. I'd love to spend a little bit more time with you there. I'm also going to send you a recording of this tonight. Um, Tonight's webinar. I will probably send that out tomorrow morning or afternoon. Um, I may work on it this evening after I get both of them completed. Do you have any questions? And you can jot them into the chat or into the discussion. If you are watching this on the recording, you'll have to see the recording on the 6:30 one. Absolutely. And again, there is one on Monday as well. Um, and I'll send the recording for both of those out if you are, like, regardless if you're able to join or not. Because sometimes watching this in rewind is helpful as well. I can't wait to watch it with my hubby. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and um, I love sharing this. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you enjoyed. And feel free to email me later, or again, if you're watching this, um, if you've got questions or want to chat about it a little bit there. Um, it, I'm still working on the massage table quite a bit, but I get back as quickly as I can to my messages. Well, thank you for joining. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Thank you. Bye.